Our verses for today from Acts 13 are at the beginning of the chapter, verses 2 and 3. They tell us, while they were worshiping the Lord and fasting, the Holy Spirit said, "Set apart for me Barnabas and Saul for the work to which I have called them." Then, after fasting and praying, they laid their hands on them and sent them off. This is a fascinating start to the 13th chapter of the book of Acts, because you see that Barnabas and Saul are part of this small group of church leaders, and it's a really diverse group. There's someone from Cyprus, there's someone from North Africa, there's Simon of Niger, so it's a very diverse group of people. But what they are united in is worshiping, praying, and fasting, and seeking the Lord's direction. And that's a very important thing to be able to do together with different people. And I know many of us, we are continuing to pray, we are continuing to worship, and I know some people are even fasting in these days, praying for God's healing, praying for God's deliverance. If you keep reading in Acts chapter 13, in verse 5, there's a minor note at the end of that verse that as Barnabas and Saul set off, they took John, who was also called Mark, with them. Now you may remember yesterday in Acts chapter 12 that Peter came to the home of John Mark. It was his mother's house. So his mother was a leader in the early church, and now her son is going off with two of the pillars in Barnabas and Saul. And if you know the story, a little later on in Acts chapter 13, we find out that John Mark abandons the missionary work and he leaves Barnabas and Saul. And this will become a bone of contention between those two great men. And later on, when they're getting ready for another missionary journey, Barnabas, ever the encourager, wants to take John Mark with them. And Saul, who's a little bit tougher, says no, he's not going to take the one who quit on them and left them before. The disagreement becomes so sharp that that's when Barnabas and Saul part ways. And Barnabas takes John Mark under his wing, just as he had taken Saul under his wing when no one else would. And Barnabas starts to mentor John Mark. Paul takes Silas with him, and they go off and start to do ministry together. The important thing I want you to remember from this story is that John Mark had a failure, but one failure doesn't make a person a failure. And it's important to give people a second chance, just like Barnabas did, and just like God does. That's why we have the sign when you enter our parking lot, God allows U-turns, and so do we.